Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host, your friend, your coach. Today, I have one of my dearest friends that I've been blessed to meet over the last year and a half on my podcast. The one and only Mr. Trevor Gordon from the beautiful United Kingdom, the sunny tropical United Kingdom via the Caribbean. So, we've done quite a few very candid conversation on the podcast last year. And now Trevor is back in business, back in UK after traveling, roaming around the world. And now he wants to share his thoughts, his findings, his discoveries, and what he saw on the ground. So, without any further ado, Trevor, brother, welcome back to the show.
Payman, thank you so much. You honor me every time you have me back on. It's great to be back. It's great to be back with you on what is, for me, the best podcast in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You are the man. You are the man. You are the podcast guru. I love you.
Pleasure of
And
mine.
yeah, it's been a minute, but I'm glad to be back on with you. And yeah, it's been an interesting time. I went away. I did just over 2 months in the
Sorry to
States.
interrupt you. Before we start, can you give us a brief intro for people that don't know you? Who is Trevor as a man, as a human being? Just
Sure.
a minute, 2 minute overview, and
Okay.
then we'll dive right in.
My elevator speech, Trevor Gordon. The title that I currently hold is Education Management Consultant, and that covers such a broad spectrum of stuff, what I do. Um, but in the main, what I do at the moment is I currently run a senior leadership program for college and university staff where they can attain a management qualification of a level 5, which is degree level, or they can attain a leadership qualification at a level 7. Both are accredited by the Institute of Leadership in the UK, so very prestigious qualification. So I run that currently through my consultancy. And I'm also a non-executive director for Scholars Schools, who are a very Scholar School Systems, who are a very large independent university degree provider in the UK. And on top of that, I just do the work that I love with a passion. I'm doing a lot more of what I want to do now, as opposed to just the money making. Always want to make some money.
Sure.
And the nice thing is there's lots of opportunities opening up again. It was a
Mm.
quiet year last year, but
Yeah.
I decided to get my head back out there and bang, it's just the work's coming in. So I'm really pleased about that. It's what I do and it's what I love to do and it's what I do with a passion.
Mhm.
So yeah, doing that. But again, I'll talk to you in a bit about what I want to do because
Mhm.
there's some stuff. I'm lucky enough to. I've had a fantastic career. I've done well. Made money. So what I want to do now is kind of some giving back stuff. And I'll explain that in a while. Yeah, but essentially that's who I am. That's what I do.
Beautiful.
I see the world through a black lens. It's the lens I see the world through. I've never known any other world. It affects everything I do, see, say, and how I act because I am a black man, and the world has always reminded me of that fact. So it's never been something that I've been allowed to forget. So my lens, my world lens, is from the world lens of a black man who was born in the Caribbean but grew up in Europe, was educated in Europe, and has always just tried to make a difference. I have a moral compass, as you know, Payman, and I just, I'll talk a little bit about the sort of world we live in as well, and that will help to qualify me as
Sure. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. There's so many things that we can start, but tell us first of all, what
well.
has
Yeah.
been cooking up for Mr. Trevor Gordon the last few months since we last spoke?
Right. I mean, I went to the States for 2 months, and it was super. It was wonderful. It was cathartic. Some healing, which I needed to do, just a little bits of healing that were left. A lot of exercise, gym, a lot of working out. Put on a lot of weight, which is fantastic. So I'm back up to my proper weight. I'm back. I'm fit. I'm
Okay.
lean. I'm mean. Diet is good. All of that sort of stuff, all the important stuff, is really really good. So I'm really pleased about that. I started off in Tampa with my brother, um, and then I went to Louisiana to take my father back because my father passed in Louisiana, where my sister is, in a place called Hammond, just outside New Orleans.
Sorry to hear that. May his soul rest in peace, brother.
Amen, amen. He had a good run. He had a good run, Bayman. He had a good run. But we decided to take him back to the Caribbean, which we did.
Hmm.
And my daughter and my other sister in the UK, and my granddaughter from the UK all flew out to the Caribbean. So it was really, really nice having us all together because never been all together as a
Wow.
unit before, and that was just wonderful, wonderful experience. We stayed in a very nice location. Yeah, so we kind of took Dad home and put him to rest, and that went really, really well. And then I went back to New Orleans, Hammond, Louisiana, and then from there I went back to Tampa and back to the UK. So, but I think my biggest observation is I landed the week after Trump was elected,
Oh,
and I've been going to America for a long time, and since I was 24. First time I went was when I was 24. I went to New York to see my mum. So I've been going there a long time. I had a house in Atlanta for 12 years. It's a country that is kind of my second home, for better or for worse. I had a home there. Did a bit of business there in the early days. Did some work for the American community colleges. So got to understand their community college structure, their vocational college structure. Um, but it's a nightmare. What's going on out there. You couldn't make it up, Bayman. You just couldn't make it up. If I'd have racked up a year ago and said this is what's going to happen, people would have looked at me as if I'm absolutely crazy. But yeah, what's going on in the States is unbelievable. What Trump is doing and his approach, and just decimating the um, the public sector in America, government departments, just doing it in such a blasé and cavalier way, causing pain, destruction, hurt, and a lot of it's gonna be a nightmare because the way Elon Musk is going about it is just ridiculous. He's just going in a building and sacking everybody, and it's ridiculous. You do need no matter if there's waste, no matter what's going on, you do need to have these departments. The system can't function without them. And they're learning that. They're sacking everybody, and then they're realizing that actually, without a few of these people doing what they do, things don't work. It's just ridiculous what's going on. It has no logic, no rhyme or reason. But the interesting thing is that the people are getting hurt, the people who voted for him. So there's a little bit of irony there, but I don't want to do irony. It's not about doing irony. I mean, my take on it is he conned them. They were conned. So he told them a lot of lies to get their vote, got
really?
their vote, and now he's doing his 25 agenda. For those of you who don't know what that's about, it's a far right neoliberal agenda playbook that they deny that they do have, and Trump is working to that. And it's about creating a state where it is run by oligarchs, the rich, and it's about not having democracy. It's about the rich running the system, and they will determine where the poor work, what the poor eat, what the poor wear, what the poor drink, because we are the mega rich. We know what's best for you. Therefore, we will build the factories, and we will do, and it's what he's trying to do now. He's trying to bring manufacturing jobs back to America, but a lot of those jobs are below the ability of the average American. So, it's ridiculous because the Americans don't want these jobs. They don't want them. Americans are forward thinking, high thinking, tech thinkers. And, Trump's assumed there's this poor, white, semi educated mass that needs these cheap jobs, and they don't exist. America isn't like it was in the 50s. The majority of white people are well educated. So I'm not saying that there isn't a need for manual workers, engineers, people to work in industry, but not the vision that he's got. Which is we're going to open all these factories. We're going to start making iPhones, and we're going to get Americans to sit there and do the work that people in Vietnam and other part and China were doing. It's not going to happen. Because even if you create these factories and you do everything you can to bring the work back to America, Americans aren't going to take the jobs. So it's a false kind of economy. It's not really understanding who your people are. It's just assuming that, let's take it back to the 50s where a lot of white Americans were semi-literate. needed to work in car factories or plane factories or the armaments industry or whatever industry. So
Right.
you needed a lot of these low-skilled, semi-skilled jobs to have a a happy population. That population has changed. It won't do those jobs. So I don't know what he's trying to create. None of us know what he's trying to create. What we do know is mayhem, and the markets are all up and down. I look at my brother's 401k, my sister's 401k. 401k is how they do pensions, unlike in the UK and Europe. In America, you have a 401k. That's a pension linked to the stock exchange. So you control that, not your company. So you have your 401k. Might as well explain it to the people. You have your 401k, and every month you put money into your 401k, which is basically you're buying stocks and shares. It's basically the stocks and shares account. And over the period of your career, 40 years, you're buying and selling stocks, and essentially at the end of it, you've got an amount of money. Your stocks are worth X, and you retire, and that's what you do. The employers add to your 401k, so you put in, they put in, and there's a different employers, have different systems of what they're going to put in.
For example,
Um,
before you interrupt, for example, in Canada, whatever you put into your retirement, your company matches that. Is it the same in the US?
Yes, some companies match, some companies don't. Some companies give a little, some companies give a lot. It all depends on the company. Some companies are very generous in their contribution, so it's not a fixed. It's not legally fixed that
Mhm.
a company has to. It's America. It's
Right.
it's a free economy. But most good employers will contribute into your 401k as well as you. But it's quite fluid. My brother works for, I won't name it, but he works for one of the major banks in America. So yeah, his 401k they contribute reasonably well to his 401k as well.
Good.
So, and in the main, they tend to match what you put in. So, but what I'm saying is because that's linked to the stock market, they've had a lot of Americans have had their 401ks slaughtered in the past 3 weeks with the
2008, for example. In
yeah,
2008.
exactly, Pam. So, a lot of them are kind of feeling the pinch, and are not happy. And these are the same people who voted for him. So what I'm seeing in America is a lot of the hurt is happening to the people who voted for him. The people who didn't vote for him knew this was coming and braced themselves. But the real surprise for me is how many of the Republican voters who voted for him are now crying because they've lost jobs. Some husband has lost a job, the wife's lost a job. The house is now on the line. Um, keeping the kids in college is now on the line. I mean, he has thrown millions of Americans into a huge amount of uncertainty and what I would argue a lot of poverty. And these are the people who voted for him. But I'm not going to smirk and say, well, you get what you get what you deserve, because, as I say, I think he conned them, and I think he's lied to them, and now people are realizing that he's not the person that they thought he was, and he's not going to do what they thought he was going to do. He's got his own agenda. He's talking about a third term, which is in the history of the United States, no president's ever spoken about a third term ever, no matter how bad or how good that president was.
A question
So
came to mind, Trevor. Sorry to interrupt you.
what's in his mind is he wants to be a Putin, or he wants to be a
Yeah.
Kim Jong. He wants to be a dictator.
Okay.
He wants a hegemonic, autocratic system that's based on a national neoliberal, um, uh, very dodgy neoliberal Christian base as well, which really annoys me, because there are people who've taken Christianity and they've turned it into fascism.
Mhm.
And that really annoys me. And he's got a big base there as well. And it's that neoliberal nationalist, white nationalist agenda, where white men rule, and we'll be as misogynistic and as sexist and as racist and as horrible as we want to be, because we are the elite and we can be what we want to be and we can do what we want to do, and we'll tell you plebs what to do. So that's when he says take us back, I know exactly what he means. He wants to take us back to an age where, where white male supremacy was at its peak, where it dominated across the world. where it ran America, where they were openly sexist, misogynistic, treated women like filth, dirt, treated minorities, as they treated us during slavery. That's what we were. We were just a commodity to be used to do the jobs that they couldn't possibly do, or their children couldn't possibly do. They're attacking education because obviously education is something that in a democracy it helps to fuel the democratic process of freedom. It allows social movement for children who are bright and intelligent, who may not come from wealthy families, who can push them up that ladder. And 80% of university graduates fall into that category. IQ is not promised just to the wealthy. You have a lot of, what you call poor working class kids in what they call ghettos who are incredibly intelligent. And the system gives them an opportunity for that intelligence to shine, and they then become the new elite, and so on. So, yeah, he's attacking education. It's crazy what he's doing. I don't quite know how it's all going to pan out. You know, the ED&I agenda is just gone. It's open day for racism. It's open day for sexism.
Really?
Open day for misogynistic practices. It's open day for attacking the LGBT community. It's just open day. It's just,
Mhm.
have a go. You know, he will allow companies to sack who they want, when they want, how they want. Um, it really is. It's fascism, and it reminds me, because I'm a bit of a historian, and I read, I do read, and I have read, and it reminds me of Germany in the 30s,
Really?
and the rise of Hitler, and how he went about it. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean, Ben?
Yeah,
It's scary because it's very, very similar to that, where he's got a load of petrified politicians under him who will do anything that he wants to say because they don't want to get on his bad side, because he's such a vengeful bully. He really is. If you don't do what he wants, you're out. It's that simple. That's how it's run now. You do what he wants or you are gone. So there's no free thinking. There's no pushback. There's no suggesting to him that maybe what he's doing isn't the right thing. He's not having it. So, and if you are not, quote unquote, and I don't know what this word really means, loyal to him, you're gone.
yeah.
So you are going to sing his song and push his tune. And that was Hitler. That's exactly what Hitler did. And because, 90% of the people who are in those government positions and positions of authority and power, including the Supreme Court justices who are backing his nonsense, agree with it. If you are a rational, a reasonably intelligent thinking individual with a reasonable IQ, um, there is no way that you could sanction what he's doing. It's deplorable. It has no logic or sense, even if you look at it completely objectively from a point of commerce, industry, what's best for the country, what's best in the longer term for world relations. None of it makes any rational sense, apart from the fact that you just want to be a dictator. You don't want any more elections. You want to get rid of democracy. And you want to establish a fascist, nationalistic, neoliberal, I wouldn't even call it a government, dictatorship, where you'd probably die and you give it to his son, you know, and Musk would probably die and they give it to their sons. There'd be no more democracy as we know it. Not that America was always the greatest democracy, but it was a democracy. And I don't believe in there's no such thing as a perfect democracy. Um, but it was a democracy. They have their elections, and they have a constitution which says the president can't do more than 2 terms. So, you know, all that's kind of gone to the by and by. But the wonderful news is that, and the thing that uplifts me, and then I'll move off of this subject, is
Yeah.
African Americans not going to the party. You know, I spoke to a lot of my friends and a lot of my family, and they're not going to the party. This is one party they're not attending. They're not going to this party because African Americans from a minute ago they knew Trump and they understood Trump as I have. I've watched Trump's history from the 70s, his racism where he wouldn't allow African Americans to rent his property, every bit of shenanigan and grifting, because he's a grifter. Trump is a grifter.
Mm.
He's not particularly talented. He doesn't have an high IQ. He took daddy's money, invested it at times when the markets were going well. I remember when Trump was broke, no American bank would touch him. And people need to realize Trump's history. And then they'll begin to understand his current relationships with Putin. The Russians saved Trump. The Russian oligarchs bailed him out through Deutsche Bank. We all know that. We all know the history. Yeah. Because American banks wouldn't lend him a penny. Trump got to the point where he would have gone under. He'd have been a pauper because there was no American bank in their right mind lining up to lend Donald Trump money.
Didn't he
Um,
file for bankruptcy like 9 or 11 times before?
oh,
Something
oh,
like that?
Admin, we have lost count how many times Donald Trump has filed for bankruptcy. You
Wow.
know, he'll file bankruptcy on a Friday and set another company up on the Monday. He is a grifter. He's the epitome of a grifter, you know, and he'll never be anything else. And that these people call him the art of the deal and he's a deal maker. No, 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 no. What, you know, where I come from, yeah, the street life that I come from, yeah, we call him a hustler. Donald Trump's a grifter.
Yes.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
That's all he is. He's a transactional grifter, you know, and he's a player. And he's not a particularly good player. And
Mhm.
that's what he is. He's not a businessman. He's wheeled and deal with his daddy's money. He's had hundreds of thousands and he's convinced people it was millions. He's had millions and convinced people it was billions. That's what a grifter does.
He started with what? He started with $5 or $10 million.
That's right. That's right. Of his
Anyone
father.
starting with 5, 10 million, that's a massive leg up.
Well, it was in the 70s payment.
That's even
In
10
the
times more
70s,
than now,
compare, what would that be worth now?
10 times easy. I like
Exactly.
imagine starting your life at 21 with say $50 million.
That would be the equivalent now, you
Yeah,
know.
you can do
So
whatever
he
you
had a
want.
silver spoon,
Yeah.
but he also had a very bad attitude. He was also a rampant sexist, and very misogynistic. Just, but women were, to be used, abused,
Yeah.
and as in terms of his race credentials. So what I'm trying to say is that we know him, black people know him, African Americans know him, and never voted for him, and always knew he was dodgy. So they're just not going to the party, you know.
So speaking of
Um,
African Americans, what about he was claiming one of the thing one of the best thing I've done over the last few years is completely stop watching the news. But
yeah,
but still I was able to keep up with what was going on by what people were telling me. So one of the major reasons that at least what he claimed that he was elected was beside the massive white electorate that he has the Latinos and the American blacks, like all those proud, blacks for Trumps and all that,
yeah,
full of them. What about
yeah.
those guys?
Well, they're crying in their milk, and no matter what, they're feeling stupid,
Yeah.
crying in their milk. Trump's base, essentially in America, is a white base.
Mm.
Yeah, and he's got a percentage of African Americans who voted for him, and they were just Americans are one-issue voters, so they vote for in the main they're not like European voters who vote on a range of issues.
Mm.
Americans are one-issue voters. So if Trump says, "I'll cut your tax," there are
Mm.
some African Americans who vote for him because they just want lower taxes.
Sure.
Trump says, I'll make sure you get good overtime rates, or I'll cut tax on overtime, then you may vote for him. So you've got blacks who are thinking about their own financial well being, greedy bastards, excuse my language, not thinking about the greater good, who just think about themselves and know that what he's going to do will financially, fiscally benefit them. Because, we're living in a world now where it's all about the money. It's all about the money. That's what it's about. That's the world we're living in. It's a transactional world and things have changed. Payment, this ain't the world that I started off in. There's no pluralism. Nobody's giving anything away free. Everybody wants something for something. So, um, you know, um, so there are a lot of people who are like that, and it's the same with the Hispanic vote. Now, a lot of the Hispanic vote, believe it or not, voted for him in terms of religion because they're a big Catholic community, and the abortion issue for them was a big issue. And also, you have a conservative Latino population who wants immigration control. It doesn't want unlimited flow of Latinos coming in, and it was hoping Trump would do that as well. But they are now crying in their milk because the blacks for Trumps and the Hispanics for Trumps are watching their communities get absolutely thumped, you know. So again, I'm not gonna you know um, have a go at them and say, well, they get what they deserve, because that's just not the approach I think
Yeah.
we need to take. Because
What do
I
you
mean,
make
I think
of what do you make of the all these crazy tariffs on countries? Like one day you have 50%, next day you have slash and half, depending on the mood, on the weather, on whatever, the stars, the moon, the tides. What do you make of that?
Lorenzo, I'm not an economist, but I did study
Sure, yeah,
commerce and economics
yeah.
when I was studying, when I was younger. I'm not an economist, but I do know enough to know that tariffs just don't work.
Yeah.
Um, Tariffs remind me of the school playground, where, you know, the bully bullies you and you bully the bully back. It's just
Mhm.
ridiculous. Then nobody wins. There's no winner with tariffs. So you put a 50% tariff on China, China puts a 50% tariff on you. What he's using the tariffs for is leverage. He thinks he's the greatest negotiator and I'm going to do a deal. So he puts a tariff. What I believe he's doing is he puts a tariff on, and then he sees whether or not you freeze and give in and say, no, I don't want the tariff. Oh no, Mr. Trump, let's talk. And then he can get you around the table, and then he really will screw you. Or you stand your ground and you say, right, 50%, 50%. And so he's gambling. And it's an incredibly irresponsible gamble, because of the volatility it's caused around the world. People are losing jobs, factories are shutting down. It's a very, 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 very dangerous game,
Sure.
he's playing. And we're seeing it now. And we all know it's going to bite him. It's going to bite him firmly on his ass eventually, because it just can't work. And what he also doesn't understand, because he's not worldly, he hasn't traveled much outside of America. He's very inward looking. He has a view of the world that isn't correct. Trump's worldview is just not correct. You know, um, Greenlanders don't want him to take over. Um,
That
you
was
know,
hilarious.
they've now got their own red Trump caps.
Canada, making Canada the
Yeah,
51st.
Canada. Can you imagine? And I'm the way Mark Carney, and I love Mark Carney. He's a Bank of England governor. I'm very impressed with him. And the way Mark Carney, that's how every premier in the world needs to act with Trump. You need to look at him like the petulant child that he is and say, just go back out in the playground and play with your balls. You know, we're not playing with you. And if everybody in the world did that to him, he'd crack. His whole plan would fall. You know, he's a bully, and he just wants you to turn around and say, well, you've put 40% tariffs on us. Let's talk. That's what he wants. It's leverage. The tariffs are leverage or
Right.
leverage.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work because a lot of people are just saying, well, screw you.
We're gonna do
You know,
the
Brazilian
elsewhere.
coffee. Yeah,
We're
the
gonna do,
Brazilian coffee makers.
yeah.
People doing, the soybean production. All of these things are vital for America. America without coffee, America without soybeans. You know, um, the steel situation, the aluminum situation,
Yeah.
which the steel companies in America think, oh, this is wonderful, this is great, this is superb. No, it isn't. It isn't. It's going to force American building up. The cost of building a home or building an office is going to go up by, 40, 50%. So Americans are going to have to pay a lot more for their homes. It's not good. It isn't good. So, American Steel Factory CEO may feel good about it, but it's not a good thing. It's a nightmare. Tariffs are just look around you what's happening, and he's just going to get hurt. And I know more and more leaders are just not going to play ball with him. And I'm a bit disappointed with our leader here. I've been really disappointed with this government. Um, it feels like a conservative government. It's a Labour government that feels like a conservative government. It's doing worse than the conservative government did in my eyes. And I'm not Keir Starmer. He's too pally with Trump. Now he's talking about sitting down and negotiating with him. Um, you don't negotiate with a man like Trump. You just don't. Because when you do, he's going to screw you.
So what's the
Uh,
right thing to do with a man like him?
get rid of him. A man like him shouldn't be around the table. He has no moral compass.
Mm.
He has no morality. He has no conscience, no compassion. Um, he thinks, acts, and behaves like a fascist.
How do you get rid of him while he was elected legally?
Well, you can't. Well, you can't. You know, he's in for the next 4 years. But what I hope is he messes up so much that they will just quite simply remove him. That where will impeach him and say you're not fit to be president, which I don't think has ever happened in the history of the United States. Impeach him. Um, you know, you can't be president, and then you send the army into the White House to get him out because that's the only way you're going to get him out. The only way Trump is coming out of this White House is with the army. You know,
The army wasn't the army and the police force one of the main supporters that got him into power?
um, um, I would argue yes, and I mean he's also put the right people in place to run,
Mhm.
you know, the FBI, the you know the Department for Justice, um, um, all of the key law enforcement agencies, judicial agencies, and also the military have people who are pro-Trump. However, I also believe that um, all of those people have families, all of those people have friends. And when the real impact starts to hit, where these very same people are watching their family and friends suffer, when they themselves are beginning to suffer, then I believe there'll be a change. You know, people say, well, just because you put all of your cronies in place with the assumption that they're not, they're going to be there to protect you against the people, I think that's, you know, wishful thinking, and I don't think it will work. I don't think the army will come out and start shooting civilians for Trump. And 30% of the American army is non-white. I can't see that part of the army going and killing Hispanics and African Americans and poor white people. So I don't think it's as clear cut as that. I think Trump thinks that he can use the military and probably use the judiciary. He can usurp them for his own, you know, petty personal gain. I don't think it will be that easy. But yeah, we've got a dodgy Supreme Court, definitely dodgy, definitely loaded towards him. But I have faith, and I'm not losing it. And this is the argument I'm having. I have faith. I have faith in America, and I have faith that he's going to screw up so badly. I mean, he hasn't had 100 days yet. He hasn't been in 100 days yet. And he's got 4 years. He could have gotten away with all of this if he'd have just, you know, paced it, payment.
What do you make of the claims when he got into office saying in 5 days we've done more than the Biden
Well,
administration did in
every,
5 years, 4 years?
he's a pathological liar, you know, and every psychologist who's studied him has said he's a pathological. Pathological means he believes his own lies. He's a pathological liar, and you know he'll lie in a minute. It's just it's no problem to him to just blatantly lie.
Mhm.
You know, it's the greatest thing ever. You've never seen anything like this. You'll never see anything like this. You know,
Greatest, the best, you know.
yeah, yeah, it's going to be the best. It's going to be the greatest. He's just he's a narcissist, and he's a you know he's narcissistic. He's a pathological liar, and that's what he is. Anybody with a teeny brain and a small IQ, when a man turns around and says, "I'll stop the war in one day," you've got to know that that's just bragging, and but there's it's just not physically possible. So you know, he brags and he boasts and he makes all these claims, and the minute he makes them, you know they're rubbish. So if you believed all of that, then more fool you, you know, because common sense just tells you he couldn't stop any of this. He's not going to stop Palestine because you know the amount of money that the American military industrial complex makes from Israel. So you know,
Oh,
it's they sell they you know it's an industrial complex in America. The armament system, the
sure.
military is an industrial complex.
Biggest
They make
industry.
money, you know. So they're not going to stop Netanyahu, who's bombing rubble, because that's what he's doing now. He's bombing rubble because there ain't anything left to bomb in Gaza. So if you're dropping bombs on rubble. But what you're doing is people have gone back to that rubble because it's their homes. They've moved in. Now you're bombing the rubble with the people who've moved back. And I'm going to say it's genocide.
Yeah,
It's genocide. There's no other name for it, you know.
of
And what
course.
upsets
Yes.
me is not long ago a similar genocide was committed against the Israelis, the Jewish people, and yet now having had what you claim to be the Holocaust, the worst, you know, injustice perpetuated on Jewish people, I would argue that transatlantic slavery eclipsed, well
I'm with
eclipsed
you
the
on that.
Holocaust.
I'm with you
But
on that.
that's not to minimize the Holocaust and the six
Absolutely not.
million.
Absolutely
Not
not.
to minimize.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, transatlantic slavery, we're talking hundreds of millions. But to think that as a country you were created because of an atrocity that took place to your people. Israel was created. The world let you create Israel because of the Holocaust. And you know, at the time, the United Kingdom owned what Eden and whatever it was. You know, 47, 48. We know what took place. And they said, okay, you know, you can have this homeland because, and everybody agreed because of the wicked and awful atrocities that Hitler and his henchmen did to you. You were created out of a Holocaust, and now you are committing a Holocaust.
They find us both
What,
sides of the
what
border.
part of this doesn't add
Always.
up for you?
Yeah.
What part of this doesn't make you realize that what you're doing is the most foul and atrocious act that you could possibly do? What part of it don't add up? You're doing something that was done to you. That's like me having the ability to go and get 10 white people and put them into slavery,
Mm.
you know, and saying, I'm justifying it and I can do it and I'll enjoy doing it. Are you with me? That's the same, you know, that's an analogy I'll use. It's for like black people to start to enslave white people. You know, it's ridiculous. It's something you know, having suffered it, having, you know, my whole history has come out of transatlantic slavery. It's the last thing on. I abhor slavery. You know, human trafficking, any form of sexual, any kind of, you know, slavery. Yeah, it's an absolute anathema to me. So how these Israelis are sitting there feeling comfortable about annihilating the Palestinians is beyond me. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
I'm with you,
Um,
brother. The world
I,
is with you.
I, I can understand that, you know, they had an atrocity committed to them, 1,000 of their people kidnapped and killed. I understand that. I get that. And I understand that, you know, they needed to retaliate against Hamas, but that's not a retaliation. You're not fighting soldiers. You're bombing women and children.
Yeah.
That's in order to get to a few soldiers. And you're using you know a few Hamas rebels as an excuse. That's your excuse. We're going after Hamas. Those aren't the figures that we see. We see women and children dying. We don't see Hamas fighters dying. We see hospital staff
And then
dying.
starving them, cutting off the rations of food coming, the international aid and all that.
Exactly. What do you call that? What would you call that? What would you call that? That's genocide. So, you know, if you're not going to kill them with a gun or a bomb, you'll starve them to death. So it's, but back to what you were saying. No, Trump wasn't going to stop any of that. Absolutely not. I mean, you know, he wants the Trump Tower in Tel Aviv, and you know, and we all know what Trump's view is of Gaza. It's a nice bit of real estate, and people need to see. There's a video that the Tate brothers made. Those two sexist, misogynistic, racist, nasty bits of work the Tate brothers made, and you know, and I don't care who sees this podcast and what's it, because you know, if they want to come after me, let them come after me, because you know, we'll see who walks away. But they're nasty, and Trump has spoken to the Hungarian premier and allowed them to fly to America. The Tate brothers are now in America.
In Miami,
You
in
know,
Florida, yes.
yeah, they're back, you're keeping abreast. They're in Florida. Nasty bits of work. And you know, should have been extradited to the UK. There are charges out on them. You want to see the video they put together about turning Gaza into, you know, Trumpville or Trump City. I mean, everybody should look up that video.
Wow.
It's it's unreal. That video is it is
Who made that
it is
video?
the Tate brothers.
Was that satire or was it really serious?
It's it needs to be watched because
Ah,
it's had the Tate brothers have had a massive effect on white male misogyny because um, one of the things that I believe is happening amongst young white males, there is a kind of a misogynistic right wing surge, and Trump knows it, and it's really disappointing. And in America, the core of young white males voted for Trump because there is this resurgence of this white male misogynistic, sexist, racist, neoliberal view of power. And they're a powerful group. And the Tates, like them or hate them, have a lot of young white male followers who agree with their misogynistic practices, who think that men should be able to do what they want, when they want, how they want with women. And it's a shame that there is a core of white males now increasingly growing that adopt that particular view. So and so again, that's why and they were instrumental in podcasting and putting stuff out for Trump over the election period. So I think Trump's now rewarding them. But we know in America there is this young white middle class neoliberal group, nationalistic neoliberal group of in the main white boys and some white women, who um, that's the kind of world they'd like to see. Yeah.
You know,
So it's
uh,
worrying.
change up. One thing that I saw like recently, there was a Canadian girl that was detained at the border in San Diego
I,
for
I
two
watched her
weeks.
video. I watched her video. I watched her interview in America,
Yeah.
and she was sent to the prison. And what hit me was she was in the prison about 11 or 12 days, and they
Yeah.
got her out. But when they interviewed her, she said that the heartbreak is the women who are in there, who've been in there.
7, 8 months. She was able
Yeah,
to be free because she had
yeah.
influential friends, a lawyer,
Yes, exactly, exactly. So
and the means.
yeah, exactly. But she said she's met women in there who were in there been in there 2 years.
Wow.
This place isn't fit for dogs. It's not fit for dogs. It's just not, these places are the most inhumane, there is no way that in Europe or in any decent civilized country, democracy, that you could run a prison like that. And that's what was heartbreaking. When you heard her talk about the other women
Yeah.
who haven't got the lawyers, who haven't got the press coverage, who haven't got the help, who've
Yeah.
done nothing, who are sitting in these camps or prisons and just in absolute, you give them a half a bar of soap, you give them a spoon, you give them
Like
a
literally
mug.
in cages, in
It,
cages.
you are, and and these are women. It's beyond belief. So that's what hit me about her, and that's why I liked her story, because it wasn't about me, 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 me. I got out after 12 days, and it was hell.
Yeah.
But it's all, she says she's now going to fight for all those other women, because that's the revelation she had.
Mm.
That so many innocent women who've done nothing, nothing at all, are held in these transit camps. And I can imagine the sexual abuse that they go through as well, at the hands of I'll just call it the system. I can imagine why they keep them there, the trafficking that follows out of those camps. I can just imagine
You
what
know,
those
one
camps.
thing that they say also that's really scary is that from now on, when you land in the US,
Mm.
the TSA can go to your phone, your social media. If they see anything anti-Trump,
Yeah, yeah,
and
they can
can
they can ban
turn
you.
you back, or even
Yeah,
they can lock you up.
yeah. That's my difficulty, Payman. We've all got to make a decision. I love the States. I go there 2 months, 3 months every year, every
Well,
year.
with you saying these on this podcast, aren't you concerned this can come and bite you next time you go in the US?
If it bites me, it'll only bite me for the period of Trump.
Mm.
And I think I had enough time. I spoke to another friend of mine. He's a fantastic guy, David McQueen. I call him the guru. And I saw his bravery, Payman, I think you've got to be true to self.
Mm.
And I'm not going to compromise saying what needs to be said.
Truth
Why? Because
cannot
I
be
live in
hidden.
a world, yeah, I live in a world where I don't believe there's freedom of speech. You can't have freedom of speech, but you can have freedom of opinion.
Mm.
And I haven't got time to explain the difference, because too many people say, I've got freedom of speech. No, you haven't got freedom of speech. You can't say what you want, where you want, how you want. Yeah.
Mm.
If you come to me and say certain things to me, you're liable to get slapped. So you can't say what you want when you want, but you can think what you want when you want.
Mm.
And you should be able to articulate on issues of body politic and on issues of world morality. And that's what I comment on. And I'm not going to compromise it. I would like to think that I wouldn't be banned from America. But if I'm banned, I'm banned. And it's just a sorry thing. I've got my sister there. I've got my brother there. And I love it. I absolutely love America. American people are beautiful people.
Yes.
In the main, they are wonderful. I keep telling my friends, they're beautiful, wonderful people. America is not a horrible, wicked, and the impression that people are getting of America is all Americans are just these sort of neoliberal fascists. No, it's not the case at all. Beautiful people, beautiful country,
Big heart. Yes.
wonderful culture. I absolutely I do. I really, really like it.
Yeah, I love
Um,
it too.
There are lots of places in the world I like, but I like America. So
Yeah,
no, I don't want to burn my bridges,
sure.
but I had to sit down and I spent about 24 hours making that decision. Because I need, you need an ESTA, you need an ESTA to go to America. It's a visa. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when
You
I
as
move.
a you have an English citizenship, right?
Yeah. Everybody who goes to America has to have
Do
at the
you need a
minimum.
visa now?
Yeah, you always had to have a visa. You have to have an ESTA.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody. You don't get into, yeah, you've got to have an ESTA. So you apply for, and it's a travel visa and it lasts 2 years.
Wow.
Like
For example,
everybody
for me as
everybody
a
in England,
Canadian, I could just
you're
show
not
up.
going to America without applying for your ESTA, you know.
For example, me as a Canadian, I never
Mm.
had to apply for it. I just showed up using my passport
Yeah,
and
no, I don't think they have a relationship for a need for a visa between Canada and America, but they may put one in place. But for Europe, or I know that for the UK and for my, I'm a British citizen.
Mhm.
For that, all British citizens have to have at the minimum an ESTA, a travel
Wow.
visa to enter the United States. So you apply for it online, through their whatever government department it is. I think it's Homeland Security, and they take you through a series of questions, and then they approve your visa. And it used to last for 3 years. Now it's 2 years. So we'll see what happens. But I can't not. I'm not going to cause trouble. I'm not a troublemaker. I don't need to cause trouble.
Sure.
I'm not going to start, you know, um, you know, um, um, hammering Trump and his regime, but I will talk out on what's wrong. And I'll talk out about what's wrong anywhere in this world. You know, I'll talk out on oppression. I'll talk out on, things that are not right for people. I'll talk out on the wealthy getting more wealthy and the poor getting poorer. I will talk out on these things.
Mhm.
Who wants to sanction me? They're more than welcome to. I believe that we do need to speak out there. We need to have some people who've got some courage
Yeah.
and we're going to stand up and say what needs to be said. Otherwise, we wouldn't be living in the world we're living in today. Somebody stood up with courage so that you and I can be here today, Payman.
Trevor, beautiful. I
You
love
made
that.
that
But
sacrifice for
listen,
you,
I have
you
a few
know?
more minutes. Let's talk in the next few minutes about the positive things that are happening in your life. Tell
Yeah.
us, let's have a talk about positive things, things that
Yeah,
you're excited,
there's lots.
looking
Yeah.
forward to.
Yeah, there's lots of good things.
Yeah,
When I go to America, I do a lot of flying.
yeah.
So I really enjoyed it this time, getting my hours up doing the flying in America. My brother-in-law has a plane.
Oh
And he's
wow.
very popular at his airport. So we go up, we fly. He gives me lessons. That's
Ah,
been fantastic. Just learning to fly again. Because when I was younger, I did learn to fly a helicopter.
oh
So
wow.
I did rotary, and I got my license, but I didn't get my night rating. But I got
Amazing.
my day rating. But it's very expensive. You have to keep your license up, and to do that, you've
Yeah.
got to fly. And it's very expensive to fly. So fly a helicopter is about $500 an hour. And I got the chance to fly a private jet as well. And this time around, met a wonderful guy who owns a private jet company. Hammond is a regional airport. It's 5 minutes from my brother's home. It's where he hangars his plane. And I've just got to know a lot of the airport people over the years. So I'm kind of part of that airport in crowd. And they're quite wealthy, but they're lovely people. And so I go and, I go up in jets. And so I had a wonderful time. And so I've kind of reignited my love with flying. So I hope I continue that if I can get into America to continue it. So that was great. Being back at work's good. I'm in the office today. I really do love I'm making a difference on the senior leadership program. I want to make money, but I want to make a difference. I'm seeing too many people out there that are just greedy. They're just making money, they're making any difference.
The money grab.
Um,
That's all they look
yeah,
for.
and or there's also a lot of BSers out there who convince you that they're making money and they ain't making none.
Hmm.
So I've seen a lot of that in business. There's a lot of people out there who are fronting it, and people are thinking they're making money, but they're not. It all depends on what you call money. Um, so yeah, I'm really happy. Yeah, work's coming in. I'm enjoying my non-executive directorship. I'm enjoying my leadership development program. Lots of other opportunities coming my way. I've just been invited by the Voice newspaper. They're looking at running an article on me as a successful
Congratulations. Wow.
businessman, and that's the biggest black um, newspaper, probably not just in the UK but in Europe in terms
Wow.
of circulation. So very honoured that they're looking at me, and just really enjoying life, and taking the decision that you know I can still make good money, and I will. Got to do that. Got a lifestyle I want to keep, and I
Mhm.
intend to keep it. I deserve it. But
Absolutely.
but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to work with some young entrepreneurs, some the younger generation. I'm doing some work with them. I've got a couple who I really like. A young man by the name of Erin, and a couple of other um, young people, Akil. A lot that I warm to, you know, and they're the future. And so I want to do a lot of work about nurturing the next generation because I didn't have anybody. You know, when I set out, there was nobody to go to. I didn't have any black figures that I could go to and say, look, help, tell me how to get it right,
Mhm.
how not to, how not to get it wrong. I didn't have anybody. So we were that generation who, we'd rack up at the bank with a business plan, walk in, and we'd be walking out in 5 minutes because there's no way they're going to lend us the money, no matter how good the plan was. So we're that generation. I'm that generation. I'm that generation who didn't have anybody to go to. So I would now like to be a go-to for some talented and gifted young people, particularly black people. It's not exclusively black. If I met a bright white guy, I'd help him too. It's just
Sure.
about where you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about being a gatekeeper. I can open doors. I know people. I can help, and that's what I want to do. And to help them develop themselves, because what I want to do, Payman, is the biggest thing for me is what I'm seeing right now, particularly in the black business community, is I'm not seeing any philanthropism. I'm not seeing any giving. I'm seeing taking. I'm not seeing pluralism. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I want to teach these young entrepreneurs that you can make a shitload of money. But for me, it's meaningless if you're mean, if you're not pulling others up with you, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not supporting community initiatives, if you're not supporting the education of poor kids, if you're not doing good, then for me, I don't care how much money you got, you're rubbish. You know, you've got to be giving some. To whom much is given, much is expected.
Yes.
And that's what I want to put into this younger generation. I've got some youngsters now. I'm working with them, and the reason I love them is they're gonna make shed loads of money. The ability and the talent they have, particularly young Aaron, the ability and the talent they have, they're gonna make shed loads of money. That's not the issue. The issue is that you're gonna become like, you know, what we see out there, greedy, not putting anything back. You know, what are you going to have a moral compass? Are you going to have integrity? You're going to keep your dignity. Are you going to humble yourself? The more you grow, the less you show. What kind of person are you going to be? And that's what I want to bring to the mix for them. That's really what I want to bring to the mix for.
I
So
love that.
we'll
This
see how
is
it goes. And
this.
and mm.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
No, and the last thing I wanted to say, because I know we're running short of time, is the other thing that I'm looking at this year is the situation around particularly black women. I think black women have had a really, really, really rough time lately. I watched Me Too as a movement, and irrespective of where Me Too came out of, black women were, for better or for worse, were a part of Me Too. They got pulled along with the white female euphoria, and when everything was opening up for white females, a lot of black females benefited from it. And I watched a lot of black women um, go into positions of power in jobs of authority, jobs of responsibility, do really, really well. I thought, well, this is great. I mean, because as a black man, we're the bottom of the barrel. We'll always be the bottom of the barrel. And so my approach as a black man is to teach black men, if you think you're ever not going to be the bottom of the barrel, get that out of your head. You're always going to be bottom of the barrel. And black women are just above us. So for me to watch black women, remember I've got 6 daughters. I've got 3 daughters. I've got 3 granddaughters and 2 sisters. I mean, the 8 most important people in my life are women.
Huh?
Um, and I've just watched what's happening with black women, how they're losing jobs, they're being made redundant. They're just the Fortune 500s are just jettisoning black women left, right, and centre. And nobody's commenting on it, and I don't see anybody doing anything about it. And I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and I'm not watching black men getting hammered because we've always been hammered, but I'm watching black women really, really really, really get
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the black women are mostly targeted?
because I think they've realised that black women are the best business people in the world.
Okay.
I think black women are, and the research is there. The most successful businesses in the world have been run by black women, and I think that scares the living daylights out of them. I've always said this, if a white racist comes along, if white racists and nationalists want to attack black people, it's the women you should be attacking. The mistake they made in slavery was attacking the men. If they'd have attacked the women, they'd have probably annihilated us. And it was based on sexism. If you want to annihilate a race, kill the men. Well, actually, no. If you want to annihilate a race, killing the men isn't going to annihilate a race. So, I think because black women did go into these positions of power and authority, I think when they saw how successful, how talented and gifted, and we've got the films coming out now about the contribution of black women, Hidden Figures, wouldn't got into space without black women. The Americans wouldn't have got up there without black women. And so when you see the hidden talent of black women and the power of black women and their ability to maneuver business in a way that most men can't, I think that's caused them to that was just a massive eye opener for so many people, particularly the white business world. For me, it was no shock because I've grown up and with some seriously talented and gifted black women. Seriously. I could start to rule names off to you now. Unbelievable, the list of talented and black women that I know. And are not getting the opportunities they deserve, and their businesses are not doing the volume and turnover that they deserve. So when I come back, maybe for the next one, we can talk a bit more about that
Yes.
because I think there's a real issue there. I'm watching black women being made redundant and not being able to find jobs. Some of it's close to my heart. I can't say anything at the moment. Next time I come on, maybe I can say a bit more. But I do see black women under attack, and they're being thrown out of jobs. And then when they go back to the market, all the doors are closed. So, and they tell them ages against them. And that's the problem. You see, there are glass ceilings. I tell everybody that I work with, there are glass ceilings.
Is that observation male in the UK, in the US,
No,
in
it's
Europe,
I
worldwide?
see it. Yeah, the only place I don't see that happening is Africa.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, where black female entrepreneurialism is flourishing,
Mhm.
where black women on the African continent are doing really really well. But in Europe and in America and in the Americas, yeah, I definitely think that there's been a pullback on. You just got to look at the data. The amount of women who've lost C-suite roles, senior management roles. We're not talking about the black women who are doing the menial manual jobs, cleaning hospitals, cleaning the floors. We're not talking about that section, albeit there needs to be a debate about, the exploitation of black women across, the sort of the more menial manual work areas. I'm talking about the ones who can make a difference, the high flyers, the CEOs, the COOs, the directors, the consultants, the barristers, the academics, the movers, the shakers, because I tell you, they've done the research. American universities have done the research.
Yeah.
The most successful CEOs are black women.
Beautiful. That's a powerful topic. Yeah, we can do the entire episode on that. But also another topic that you mentioned that I am also very passionate about, and that is as helping the young generations of entrepreneurs. One of my dreams that I aspire to is to become, in Shark Tanks and Dragon's Den, being a mentor and investor for the young entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Just the way, one thing I always say is build your business the way you wish existed when you were at the lowest. I would love to have at a big brother like that
yeah,
to tell me,
exactly.
to guide me, to mentor me, and when needed be,
Absolutely.
give
And we
me
just didn't
access to
have it.
funding.
Yeah, we didn't have it, payment. We didn't have it. We didn't
Yeah,
have anybody to go to, You
yeah,
didn't have anybody to go to. I didn't have
yeah.
anybody to go to. And so I want to be a go-to, and I can't be a go-to
Let's
for
talk
everybody.
about that. Let's do an entire episode on that. That's very
I'd love to. I
let's do that
really would
next
love
week. Let's
to
do that
because
next week.
that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm sharing with you that as much as I'm going to be working,
Yeah.
I've, I've, I've got a high lifestyle and I need the money, to keep me at the llifestyle I'm accustomed to. As
Let me
much
know
as
when you do that because that's something I aspire and I would be very
yeah,
interested in joining
yeah.
you. Let's talk about that next time.
I,
This is one of
I
my
absolutely want to, Payman. I want to spend the rest of my time doing that, helping these young, just being here for them because, you know, I can't do it for them, but I certainly can help them to navigate the pitfalls and, you know, a lot of the emotional intelligence that they're going to need to develop and
I want to
resilience.
help. I want to help all the youngsters, especially those that are
Yeah,
minority and those
yeah,
that are
yeah.
immigrant. I'm an
Well,
immigrant. I'm a minority
why
myself.
don't we have the next podcast? Let's have two main agendas for the next podcast. Let's look at the situation with black women because I'm also doing stuff with young black women. That you know, so it's that fits that agenda. So let's look at how we can begin to empower our young through convincing people who are a little bit older than them to put something back and to just not be just completely greedy.
Even better, my brother. Let's do one episode for each of the topic. And even
I
I'm
love
just had this
that. I'd love that.
idea
I'd love that.
channeled
I'd
to me,
love
and
that.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Let's
Thinking
do
out
that.
loud, thinking big. Why not
Yeah,
let's host a conference, an event in person next year
yeah,
to empower the youth,
yeah,
especially minority and immigrants, because we both identify with that,
yeah.
you know.
I would love it, Payman. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Hey,
Let's do
the
it.
seed has been planted. Now it's up to the
Yeah,
universe to bring the
yeah.
water.
To bring it to fruition,
Yes.
and it's a wonderful seed, and I'm up for it all the way
Amen.
because you know that's the contribution that you and I want to make. We want, you
Yes.
know, good legacy. You
Yeah.
know, and as I said, I'm living in a world now where a lot of these young people are being taught to be ruthless. They're being taught that you know only they matter. It's all about self. They're needy. They're greedy. You know,
Selfish.
they want it all tomorrow.
Yeah.
They don't care about the moral compass. They'll throw people under the bus. It's no, no. You know, we want business with integrity. We want growth with integrity. We want success with integrity.
Do you remember
Yeah.
what is the name of my podcast?
Yes. Yes.
Leaders with a Heart.
Leaders with a heart, my friend. And isn't that what we want?
Get the
Isn't that
book. Same thing.
isn't that
That's my
what we
brand.
want? You
Yeah.
know, isn't that what we want?
Exactly.
I want all of the young people I work with to be wealthy. I want
Yes.
everybody to be wealthy. But I want them to also remember that I've said it already, to whom much is given, much is expected. Give back, put
Yeah.
back, give back. You know, those are
Inspire,
the
empower, uplift others.
absolutely lift others on your way, man. You know, and that's in my heart, and I'm always going to do that. I'm never
Yeah.
going to do that, and I want to do a bit more of that with this younger generation because they're talented. They give, and I learn as well. You know, when I'm sitting down with them, I'm learning. I'm picking up stuff.
Absolutely. It's a new world.
It's a new world, and you know, and that's also what I'm picking up, and I'm applying that to my life as well. You're never too old to learn. You know, and as
No,
much
there's
as
no age. Yeah.
I'm learning from them, you know, I'm dabbling in stuff I didn't dabble in before, you
Yeah.
know, because they've said, Trev, you know, look, get into this, get into that. They're helping me as well. So it's a pleasure to give back to them because they're so talented and gifted. And they've opened up
Absolutely.
some doors for me that I'm not going to talk about. But hey, you know, you see, Payman, you know the God we worship, my brother. You know, we worship a God of reciprocity. You know, when you stretch out your hand to help somebody, God sees that. So God is going to go
Paying
open the
it
door.
forward. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
it's the good you do that follows you. You know, you open the door for somebody, they open the door for you. And yeah, there are people out there who use you, they abuse you, they take liberties
Of
with you
course.
because, you know, we all go through that. We all suffer
Part of
abuse.
our journey, part of our learning.
It's part of the journey, it's part of the learning, but it doesn't make you stop helping people,
Wow.
you know.
You know,
Um,
there's a quote that says, never stop being a good person, no matter how bad some people treat you.
Absolutely, and that's going to be me, you know.
Exactly.
So
Same here,
no
brother.
matter what I go through, and you know, you can't stretch your hand out to help people and not have somebody bite it. You can't.
No.
The issue is once it's bitten, are you then not going to extend it to anybody again, or are you going to just, you know, have the emotional intelligence enough to know there are some people out there who are just users
Mhm.
and they'll just take what they can get. They'll see you and think,
Absolutely.
I'll take what I
Listen,
can get.
listen, Trevor, an absolute pleasure catching up with you. I love that. You're getting me riled up in a good way.
You
Let's
too.
book a time for next week to talk about this exciting. We'll do two episodes. One about the plight of a black
Okay.
woman in the workforce. That deserves its entire own episode,
Okay.
not just a section, an entire episode.
Right. Right.
And then another one on this beautiful vision that we both
Right.
share.
Right.
Let's
Okay.
plant the seed, and who knows, maybe later this year or next year we can have an in-person event in London and UK.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hey, let's think big.
Fine. That's fine. That's fine. Wednesday's always good for me. So I could do next Wednesday, the 16th,
Same time, yes.
or I can do the
All right.
23rd. So yeah, if you want to get some, if you want to send me an invite for same time next
Yes, I'll
Wednesday,
do that. So let
we
me
can do
just
that.
conclude this episode. So listen, Trevor, absolute honor. If someone
Thank
wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do so, my brother?
It's my email, my business email, all lowercase, T Gordon, TGORDON at gfasso.co.uk. And it's T Gordon at GFASO. My company name is Gordon French Associates. So it's gfasso.co.uk. T Gordon at gfasso.co.uk.
I'll put that in
Yeah.
the show notes. Listen, as always, an absolute pleasure.
Uh,
You're a
Famous
true
pleasure
gift.
is
Keep
mine.
shining your light, my brother. Stay safe, stay awesome. Keep sharing your gifts, and always remember, you, my
Yeah.
brother, Mr. Trevor Gordon, you're a beautiful gift yourself.
Bless you.
Kind
Bless you
lad
so
and
much.
pride. See you next
Thank
time.
you, President.
Take care.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. God bless you, my friend.
Take care.